Please enjoy Jean's music in silence. Experience the energy of this community, and together create a sacred space in this great hall. Good morning, and welcome to Rogue Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, which we call ROOF for short. I'm Dolores Mims, a member of the worship team, and I will be assisting with this morning's service. We especially welcome first-time visitors and anyone returning after an absence, no matter what you believe or who you love, or where you are on your spiritual path. You are welcome here. In this UU faith, we seek to grow our best selves and work together to heal the broken world. Please join us after the service for goodies under the balcony, and coffee and tea in the gallery, and conversation everywhere. During the summer, our minister takes time away from the congregation for rest, renewal, and study in a combination of vacation and study time. Reverend Leslie will be back August 15th and will lead the worship service at Camp Latgawa on August 19th. She will be back in this pulpit on August 26th. This week, Leslie and her family will be participating in the Southeastern Unitarian Universalist Summer Institute in Radford, Virginia. On one day, Reverend Leslie will be the minister of the day on call to provide ministerial support. The rest of the time, she and her family will be learning from and enjoying time with over 1,000 UUs. I was also asked to announce that this is the special day at the Yogurt Hut where they are splitting their profits with us. So if you've ever thought about having yogurt, this is the day. Our summer services cover a wide range of topics. Each service relates to one of the sources on which our UU traditions are based. You can find these listed on the back of your order of service. Under the living traditions we share draw from many sources. Note item 3. The topic this morning is Taoism, one of the world's religions which inspire us to live an ethical and spiritual life. We are fortunate to have Jean Burnett to share his Taoist faith with us. I have heard Jean speak and sing several times at the Interfaith Thanksgiving event at the Methodist Church. He is always the highlight for me. When I asked Jean how long he's been practicing Taoism, he replied, since he was a toddler, trying to find his physical balance and later his spiritual balance. Taoism resonates with him because he's always been entranced by nature and animals. He began Tai Chi training in 1984 and has been teaching since 1985. Jean last spoke in our pulpit the Sunday that many of us were attending General Assembly in Portland. What year was that? General Assembly in Portland. Was it 2007?
2005.
5? Thank you. So it's been quite a while. He is a songwriter as well as a musician, and his CDs will be on sale as well as his books after the service at the back of the church. So I hope you will enjoy Gene as much as I have at that Thanksgiving event. He is a charming and a talented man. So the next item on our schedule is our chalice lighting. And this morning we have Jackie Rosen and Jim Meckel as our chalice lighters. And I understand they hiked up Grizzly Peak to celebrate their 33rd wedding anniversary. And Maria Geigel brought some champagne. So that was really a sweet thing to do.
It was nice.
Our candle lighting reading for today comes from Lao Tzu, the father of Taoism. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of 10,000 things. Ever desireless, one can see the mystery. Ever desiring, one sees the manifestations. These two spring from the same source but differ in name. This appears as darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gate to all mystery. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's an accomplishment. Also from Lao Tzu comes the second reading. In the pursuit of learning, every day something is acquired. In the pursuit of Tao, every day something is dropped. Less and less is done until non-action is achieved. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. The world is ruled by letting things take their course. It cannot be ruled by interfering. And now, Jean is going to contribute a song.
I hope you join me on the chorus. The lyrics are in your
Order of service, no such thing. Jean writes a lot of songs, so we're blessed to have him share these with us.
Meant it when I said it all those years ago. I pledged my love to you and no one else. I said your lonely days are gone, darling, from now on. There's no such thing as all by yourself. There's no such thing as all by yourself. There's no such thing as all by yourself. I'll be with you everywhere. I'll always be there. There's no such thing as all by yourself. I was standing in the open, looking at the moon. I felt a miracle around me breathe, and it reached inside my skin to the deepest place within. I heard a voice that spoke these words to me. There's no such thing as all by yourself. There's no such thing as all by yourself. There's a living mystery that'll keep you company. There's no such thing as all by yourself. It's all in your mind. All your dividing lines. Yes, they're real, but no, they're not. You can put them on, you can take them off. I was singing in a barroom on a noisy Sunday night, and someone smiled and tipped his glass to me. And it wasn't very long till everybody sang along. I felt as right at home as right can be. There's no such thing as all by yourself. There's no such thing as all by yourself. Sit down, take off your coat. We're all in the same boat. There's no such thing as all by yourself. There's no such thing as all by yourself. One more real quiet. There's no such thing as all by yourself.
Thank you. Now, a song for all ages from Jean.
Thank you for listening to a song about singing in a bar in the church. Appreciate that. I did get Sunday in there, so. I'm not here to represent any Orthodox Taoist church or community. I'm more of a sort of a freestyle Taoist than an Orthodox Taoist. More of a Taoist artist than a Taoist preacher. So bear with me. I'm hoping that through sharing some of my experiences and playing some of my songs, telling a story or two, doing a little bit of breathing and Qigong exercise together in the program, that we can get a little sense of what Taoism is like and how it might help you in your life. I'm really drawn to simple, elemental, essential experiences more than complicated rituals and services and kind of, levels of meaning. I like things really simple. The Orthodox Taoist canon is 1,200 volumes of Chinese. And my sort of freestyle Taoist canon is just 4 words. Flow more, force less, which is in the cover of your order of service. Sounds very simple. It is in some ways, but it's really not that simple, and it's not a little facile bumper sticker slogan that I just kind of toss around. I take it pretty seriously. I've been studying how to flow more and force less when I write and sing for about 35 years now, and when I breathe and stand and move in Tai Chi training for about 25 years, and in my heart since I can remember. Most recently, my best and toughest teacher, my marriage of 19 years with my wife, Samara. So Orthodox Taoism has a lot of great stories and parables that illustrate this idea that the best results come from not forcing your will on things, from allowing things to take their course, not so much like a little cork on the ocean passively floating around, but more like a surfer. So you're kind of in a relationship with change and with the world. But in the spirit of freestyle Taoism, instead of telling you one of these ancient Chinese stories, I thought I'd share a joke that I first read in an old Playboy magazine long ago. And it goes like this. This guy is in jail and is in prison, and he gets a letter from his wife, and the letter says, "Honey, I've had a hard time making ends meet since you've been, in the joint, and I was thinking of planting the vegetable garden, but to help me, make ends meet. But that was always your department. When should I plant the vegetables?" So he writes back, "Don't touch that garden. That's where I buried the money from that last bank job." So she writes back, "Well, the cops came and dug up the whole backyard." He writes back, "Now is the time to plant the vegetables." So it's not too orthodox, he does manipulate the system a little bit, but not a bad lesson in flow more, force less, using the powers that be, the forces around us to get what we want. So thank you for coming, and thank you for bearing with me. I appreciate it.
And now we're going to do something interesting and different. Jean is going to lead us in some Qigong. So, let's see where that goes.
One of the sort of simple and easiest ways to study, learn a little bit about where you might be using too much force and not flowing enough in your life is just simply to study the way that you stand and the way that you breathe and the way that you move. There's a long, long history in China of so-called Qigong exercises. Qigong just means energy work or breath work. In the West, Qigong is usually associated with medical healings and Chinese traditional medicine. In China, it's a bigger umbrella than that. Anything that you're doing involving movement and breath and posture that seeks to help cultivate or balance or circulate or help you experience the various energies of your body, it's all just considered Qigong. So some people walk in the park backwards. That's their Qigong. They have a little mirror and they walk backwards. Some people stand in front of trees and try to get the energy of the tree. And Some people do Tai Chi, which is like a martial form of Qigong. Other people do other arts, but it's a pretty big umbrella. The essential heart of all these things is this idea of yin and yang, the yin-yang symbol. It translates as supreme ultimate, or supreme ultimate harmony or balance of yin and yang energies. My translation of it is unforced balance. When you see the yin-yang symbol, it's flowing and beautiful, and there's no sense of force or holding it together, and it's in a perfect balance. In Taoism, unforced balance is how the universe expresses itself. There's this supreme underlying principle of this harmony of yin and yang energies underneath all the apparent chaos and confusion of the surface sometimes. The idea is that it's underlying and that it's unforced. The underlying part means that it's already there. You don't have to do anything special or use force to experience it or to check it out. You have to let go of something you're already doing. You're already doing stuff. You're already interfering with it. It isn't something that you sort of achieve. It's something that you surrender to and find by using less force. And the balance part just means that there's a nice harmony of yin and yang energies, the firm and the soft. So one thing to remember about balance is that balance isn't really a noun. We tend to think of it as something we get and keep, but balance is actually more of a verb. We're balancing. Balance is something you lose and find and lose and find and lose and find. Think of the people in the world with the best balance of all, which would probably be tightrope walkers, like the guy that walked across the World Trade Center towers and was up there for 45 minutes, 110 stories over the ground. That is balance. And the difference between a master and a novice at any art, really, but particularly in tightrope walking, you can see it very clearly, is that a beginner makes very few and very big corrections. That like this, right? Whereas the master is making frequent but small corrections. They're just tiny, a millimeter to the left, and they're instantly correcting. So there's very small number of corrections, but they're very frequent. They happen fast. So you have to be responsive and sensitive if you want to make those corrections. You have to be loose and ready. All of Tai Chi and all of balancing really boils down to recognizing when you're in balance and recognizing when you're losing it, and then making little corrections to bring yourself back to it as smoothly as you can. So I'd like to just give you a little taste of this Tai Chi or this Qigong practice. So if you can stand up, that would be great. If you're feeling a little tired or weak in the legs, it's perfectly fine to do this sitting down. I'm going to move over to the other mic so you can see me a little bit. So we're over here now. So first thing we're going to do is just stand with our feet about shoulder width apart. So take your feet as wide as your own shoulders. And if you're not sure, just look at your own shoulders and then look down at your feet and make sure they're about the same. Some people think their shoulders are wider than they actually are. Rock your feet back and forth between your toes and your heels just a little bit, back and forth. And see if you can settle your weight between the ball of your foot and your heel. So maybe just a little in front of the heel. So it's in that space in between. So you're ready to go forward and you're ready to go back. Right? Either way. And then bend your knees just a little bit. So this is a great thing you can do for the rest of your life. Don't lock your knees. Don't stand with straight legs. Always bend them a little bit. It doesn't mean you have to wait in the post office at some, kung fu stance, but just a little bit of bend in the knees. And then think of yourself riding a motorcycle right now. Just a little bit of space on the inner thighs, so like you have a motorcycle or a very skinny horse between your thighs. So you're just a little bit of space there. It's the opposite of knock knee. Just pushing out just a little bit. Not so far as bow-legged, but heading in that direction a little bit. And then notice this crease where your thighs meet your torso, right at your hips. That crease would deepen if you were going to sit on the edge of a stool, right? So just let that crease happen just an inch or two, just a little bit, not to where it's uncomfortable, just so that you feel like you're sitting on the very edge of a stool. That's really important. Most of us stand like this. Hips forward, knees back. And we want the opposite. Hips back, knees forward. So here I'm springing, here I'm on stilts, right? So bend your knees just a little bit and just kind of jiggle a little, just bounce a little bit there. If that's not painful, that's a good thing. So you don't want your knees way out over your toes, that would hurt. So you want your knees just a little bent and your hips kind of back a little, like you're just about to sit in a chair. And let your hips drop a little bit or tuck a little bit, like picture a dog with the tail tucked just a little bit. Don't overdo it, just a little bit. And then just imagine someone held onto your ribs and just lifted them a little bit. Not much. We have this 80% rule in Taoism that you never do anything to the fullest extent that you could. You always leave a little wiggle room, right? So don't straighten your spine as far as you can, just a little bit. And then let your chin come down a little and your head come back a little bit. Like somebody just pushed your nose down and pushed it back. And let your shoulders shrug back a little, like you're trying to put your shoulder blades in your back pockets. Let your hands come away from your body just a little bit. And then you notice you're kind of holding your posture here. So just relax everything. Feel like you're getting sleepy and tired, and let everything just kind of soften. You're still doing the basic posture, but you don't want to slump, but you don't want to like hold it tight. So if this is a balloon that's fully expanded, this is a balloon that's kind of deflated. Then we're going to go halfway in the middle. So kind of expand a little bit so you feel like a little bit of play in your joints. Imagine you were a puppet on strings, but you were made of lead. So you were very heavy, but the puppeteer was strong and was just tugging on all your joints. So there's a little bit of floating. Or you could imagine you're a piece of seaweed under the ocean, like kelp or something big, and the ocean's moving you around a little bit. So we try to keep a little bit of this loose, suspended, open feeling in the joints, so that when we breathe, the whole body can move a little bit, and when you exhale, the whole body can move a little bit. So there's just a kind of a freedom and space in the body, instead of holding it really tight or holding it really slack. It's that in-between place. It's not always comfortable. It was extremely uncomfortable for me when I started, but after a while I got to tolerate it. And then I got to enjoy it, and then I got to love it, and now it's why I do this stuff. So, keeping that space there. So you feel kind of in balance, you feel like, kind of feeling like on the ground, you can feel the ground underneath your feet. You could imagine that you're standing in a canoe, that you can still keep your balance, right? Because if you stand on straight legs in a canoe, you're in the water. So, bend a little bit there. So this is basic, your basic, kind of a neutral, balanced position. Now, if you're feeling a little bit adventurous, shift your weight to one leg or the other. And then, those of you who have a chair in front of you, you could put your fingers on the chair, just touch with your fingertips, and just bring your other foot closer to the one that has the weight. And then see if just very gently, you can lift that foot off the ground and stand on one leg. No falling. That's not allowed. Okay. So interesting. So if you can't stand on one leg, put your toe back down on the ground and just see how light the contact you can have with the other foot, right? So now, as you do this, right away you notice more tension, right? And the body's trying to balance. So see if you can figure out how to do it with less tension. See if you can find a way to just lift that foot and have it be pretty effortless that you just stand there on one leg. Or fingers touching on the chair. I don't want anyone to fall over. But you can feel that you can use a little bit less force. You don't have to be struggling on that ankle. If one ankle is stronger than the other, you can always just switch. Or if it's getting tired, you switch to the other leg, lighten the other foot, so just your toes touching. And lift it off the ground. See if you can find a place. My right ankle was badly sprained as a kid, so I always have to use a little bit of force to hold my ankle there. Then I see how little can I use. Can I find a place where I'm just resting there and it's no big deal. Now switch to the other leg. So you're just barely touching. Now this is just for the adventurous, bold people among you. Make it very light. Now just close your eyes. So your foot's just touching, and see if you can maybe lift your toe off the ground a little bit and see what it's like to stand on one leg with your eyes closed. Right away, more tension comes in, right? You're trying to find it. But see, even with your eyes closed, standing on one leg, you can find that same effortless balance place. When you find it, it will just emerge, and there it'll be for a few seconds, and then maybe you lose it and you have to make corrections. But when you find it, hopefully you can get at least one instant of this. It's effortless. You're just resting on that foot, and then a correction comes in, and you start grabbing and pulling and trying to make it work, and then it's effortless. And then it's grabbing and pulling and trying to make it work. The effortless one, those little spaces where you feel like, you try the other leg if you're getting tired. The effortless little place where that's Tai Chi, that's Qigong, that's balance, that's where you're not using extra force, you're just hanging out. And nobody's falling, this is fantastic. Okay, so come back to neutral again, so your feet are kind of shoulder width apart. So this is a really simple thing that you can do while you're waiting for your toast to toast or your water to boil, or just one commercial for every half an hour that you watch television, or for every half an hour that you're online, or whatever you're doing. Just get up, take a moment to collect yourself, stand neutral, posture first, then softness, then float your joints a little bit, and then see if you can stand on one leg. See if how that feels, and then if you can do that, try it with your eyes closed. It's great to put your fingers on a counter nearby or something. So that if you feel in any danger of falling and you want to have something around that can help you. So, a lot of times in the, we think of modern people as being really in our heads, and all busy and everything, but there's exercises that help you get out of your head that are thousands of years old. So they were just as in their heads back then as we are now. So let's just do a little simple thing that'll just bring us back to earth a little bit. So bend your knees a little bit, and just kind of lift your hands up like this, if you can do it without bonking against somebody. And then just imagine you're underwater and your hands are resting on a piece of wood up there, and you're just gently pushing the wood underwater. Or you can just sink a little bit. There. And reach up. And gently sit into your hips as you bend your knees a little bit on the way down. Yeah, nice. Now inhale on the way up. Exhale on the way down. Sink a little bit in your legs as you do that. Just sink a little bit into the legs. And then inhale and rise in the legs. So straighten your legs a little bit. And down. So kind of like a downward movement sweeps over your body and everything kind of settles in the belly and settles into the ground. One more time. In. And out. So hopefully you feel a little bit more balanced and a little bit less forceful and a little more ready for the next things. Thank you for indulging me in that.
On the third Sunday of each month, the offering goes to a nonprofit organization that's doing important work. This morning, the offering will go to Jackson County Move On to Amend, an organization initiated by members of Ruth. Speaking on behalf of Move to Amend is John Tyler.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We just had a little exercise in balance, and I'm up here to talk about trying to get some balance back in our electoral process.
Amen.
Amen. Can I have an amen?
Amen.
How many of you are familiar with the United States Supreme Court decision in Citizens United? Just raise your hand. I'd like to see. Wow. Wonderful. All right. Well, for those of you who may not know, the Supreme Court in 2010 decided a case in which they decided that corporations are the same as people, and that money is the same as speech, and therefore it cannot be regulated. And then just about a week or two ago, they decided a second case to make clear what they meant when they threw out a law that Montana had had for over 100 years, which said that corporations could not contribute money to political campaigns. And the court said, no, that's unconstitutional now. So what we have is an opportunity that is rapidly being taken by wealthy individuals and corporations. You've heard of super PACs, where billions of dollars is going to be spent on this election. Someone is saying that perhaps as much as $2 billion will be spent on the presidential election alone. And what the move to, because the Supreme Court is the last court of the land, the only way to reverse what they have done is to amend the Constitution. Now, this is a really long and arduous process, but it starts right here in Ashland. And Jackson County Move to Amend is an umbrella group that we formed to bring the Move to Amend issue to the public and get people involved so that we can convince the legislature here in Oregon to tell the United States Congress that they should pass this amendment. And actually, I was on the phone with Senator Jeff Merkley with a conference call last week where we talked about this. And he said basically that the Congress will not do anything at all unless there is an amount of pressure, an enormous amount of pressure from an outraged citizenry, which is us. So the reason I'm so grateful that you're giving this money to Move to Amend is it enables us to do more, such as buy these t-shirts. Some of you may have watched the Ashland 4th of July parade, where several people, we probably had about 40 people wearing these shirts in a Peace House organization area. And as we walked by the people on the sidewalks, I noticed that the amount of interest and the amount of applause swelled as we got to them and went by. A lot of people were saying, go for it, good for you, thank you for doing this. So there's a lot of public outcry about the Citizens United case. Now, we're asking the various city councils in the valley to support this constitutional amendment. And as I said, we're going before the Ashland City Council, and that meeting is next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. And I put some information on the back table. Again, we need public outcry. We have to convince our city council that this is a good idea. The last time I went there, we got a 3-3 divided vote. Believe it or not, 3 of the council members did not think this should even be put on the ballot so you all could have a voice in it. So there's a lot of convincing that has to be done. Any of you that are willing to come, please come next Tuesday to the city council meeting here in Ashland. Let's see. Anything else?
About other cities in California?
Oh, the whole state of California. There are 6 states that have already voted to support this constitutional amendment in their entireties, and there are probably 1,000 cities and towns all over the country that are acting on this now, and cities in all over Oregon are doing it as well. So we are very grateful for your support. The money you contribute this morning will go a long way toward helping us put this on the ballot so you can have an opportunity to take your democracy back. Thank you very much.
Explain MTA.
Move to amend. This is a movement to amend the Constitution. So we call ourselves Move to Amend. Thank you.
Please make all checks out this morning to Ruth, but indicate on the bottom if you wanted to go to your pledge or Move to Amend. All money besides pledges will go to Move to Amend. Thank you for your many gifts to this fellowship and for your presence here today. Our morning offering will now be received, and we'll listen to Jean's music.
Check writing music.
I asked Jimi Hendrix the key to his success. He said, flow more, force less. I asked Casanova how to get the note. Yes, he said, flow more, force less. I asked Michael Jordan, I asked Tiger Woods, I asked Leonard Cohen, how did you get so good? I asked Elvis Presley how to shake it with the best. He said, flow more, force less. Flow more, force less. How do you lose the stress? He said, flow more, force less. I asked Barack Obama how to get out of this mess. He said, flow more, force less. I asked Mahatma Gandhi, I asked John Coltrane, I asked Willie Nelson, how do you ease the strain? some dearie, how to sing with such finesse. She said, flow more, force less. I asked Mother Nature, how'd you get into that dress? She said, flow more, force less. I asked Michael Jordan, I asked Satchel Paige, I asked Leonard Cohen how to get out of his cage. I asked Elvis Presley how to shake it with the best. He said, flow more, force less. Flow more, force less.
And thank you for your generosity that supports the work of this fellowship and the Move to Amend movement. Not quite as tall as John. Another reading from Lao Tzu. The highest good is like water. Water gives life to the 10,000 things and does not strive. It flows to the places men reject, and so it's like the Tao. In dwelling, be close to the land. In meditating, go deep in the heart. In dealing with others, be gentle and kind. In speech, be true. In ruling, be just. In daily life, be competent. In action, be aware of the time and the season. No fight, no play.
Tough act to follow. As I said, I don't really do this kind of thing too often. Maybe a sermon should be more abstract, but I'm pretty much just going to share some personal experiences with you. So this friend of mine posted on Facebook, when should a man give up on his dreams? I thought that was a really interesting post. Person after person after person posted, never give up, never surrender, never give up. I mean, like over and over, never. And, being a Taoist, and particularly being a middle-aged Taoist, I posted, well, I give up on my dreams when I see the futility of further action to make them come true. And I posted that, and then I started thinking about it, and I started thinking that, giving up on my dreams over the course of my life had actually led to some of the most powerful turning points that I had had, and led to some of the most pleasurable experiences that I had had. And I thought about that, and I decided to go back to this thread and post some more concrete examples than just my more abstract response. So one example that I posted is that when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I used to watch the original Kung Fu television show on TV with David Carradine, and that show just blew me away. And it started this dream of, wanting to be this balanced and calm, centered monk-like character who could still kick serious butt whenever, which is to a young, somewhat timid guy was extremely attractive. And so eventually I ended up, years later, studying Tai Chi and doing this more seriously and wanting to do that. But after, many years of practice and training, I realized that I really didn't have the ability to become like a combat trained Tai Chi martial artist. There was something missing. I didn't have some missing ingredient. I didn't have the willingness or the interest or willingness to risk injury or the talent or the skill. There was something in my way of going to that level. And I had great examples around me of people who really had this missing piece that I didn't have. People who were very good at taking these balanced principles, that we did, like we stood and relaxed here. It's like doing that with people swinging punches and kicks at you, hard and trying to hurt you. And you're calm and balanced and relaxed while you're doing that. But the whole point of Tai Chi to me seemed to be unforced balance. And I realized that there was no way I could do this without forcing myself to do it. And that really was discouraging, profoundly discouraging, because I couldn't force this. The whole point of Tai Chi is this unforced balance, the yin and the yang in balance. And the unforced, this idea that it's underlying, that you don't have to do anything to make it happen. The achievement is to surrender to it, not to force it, into being or to will it into being. And that's where there's a kind of a paradox. You see, like they say, you don't want to use force, you don't want to use your will to make things happen, but if you don't do anything, nothing happens. And that's where they came up with this wonderful concept of Wu Wei, which is acting without acting, or non-acting, or action without action, or as I would call it, unforced action. The action that doesn't feel like acting. It feels like it's just a natural expression of yourself. So I didn't see how I could use force to achieve this forceless state of balance. And so, I had these great examples around me of people who really had that soft power and that ability to relax under a lot of pressure and ability to do this at combat levels. I also had a lot of examples around me of people who kind of leaned towards the yang. In other words, they got better at martial arts by tensing up. They got better by abandoning certain parts of their life and really focusing on martial arts and nothing else, and they would kind of tighten up to get better. And that didn't seem any better to me either. Another thing that was holding me back from going higher up this martial art ladder was the fact that I didn't want to just be good at Tai Chi. I didn't want to just be good at martial arts. I wanted to be a good husband and a good friend and balance my checkbook and keep my closet clean and write good songs and perform them well. And I wanted a lot of things in my life to go move along together, to be integrated and not just have one thing be good at the expense of everything else. So really, I just gave up on the dream. We were living in Seattle at the time, and I quit teaching, and we moved to a small town in the Midwest, and I just focused on my own practice. After a couple of years of that, we decided to move back to the Northwest and came to Ashland, and after a lot of soul searching, this shift sort of happened. And one thing that happened is I realized that I could be on this path of mastery without caring if I got to the end or not. Like I could simply enjoy being on the path towards it and not necessarily care if I got there. And then I realized that I could focus on mastering the parts of the art that I cared about most, the parts that really excited me, which were the basics, the basic principles of the art, similar to what we already did. And then to integrating those principles into my life, in every area of my life, the best I could. And then to teaching that to other people to help them improve their balance and equilibrium. And that was really, really nice, because then I felt like I could go for it. I could do what I wanted to do. I started to delineate between martial training and combat training. Martial training is just developing body protective movement patterns, developing balance and harmony. The sneakiest adversaries you will ever face in your life, whether you're Bruce Lee or a total pacifist, are gravity and time. They will wear you down. And if you have good posture and good alignment, you can work with gravity, and gravity can help you. And Tai Chi and Qigong and things like that are really good self-defense against gravity and time and illness and all the physical objects that we have to navigate all day long, having spatial awareness. These days, every other person is on their phone, texting, while they're driving, while they're riding their bicycles, while they're just totally checked out. And we have to watch and navigate around this because they can kill you. So these are all ways that I think of martial self-defense rather than combat self-defense. So I was basically in the right forest. I was just barking up the wrong tree. And I found a way to kind of give up that dream, make some adjustments, and find something better. So part of this unforced life that I am aiming towards living is to listen, make adjustments, listen to what feels right, listen to the action that flows naturally that I don't have to use too much force or will, and go there and see how that works, and keep listening. I had to do a similar thing with music. When I was a young guy, I wanted to be James Taylor and record albums and tour and travel and be a music star and all that stuff. And I went to New York and I gave it a kind of shot. And but then I realized that I hated traveling. I couldn't stand the music business or anybody in it, except for a few musicians, and the rest of it, I didn't get along. I didn't like the people who book the clubs, or the people who own the clubs, or the people who are in the record industry who give you the two-handed handshake, and we love your work, and then they usher you out the door, and that kind of thing. And so I gave up. I quit music, and I moved to Seattle from New York, and I started doing Tai Chi and doing other things, and then the music just kind of wouldn't let me be. I was living in Seattle in this apartment building, and a music club opened in the ground floor of the building I lived in, and started an open mic for original music only. So I started going, this is a sign, I started playing. My nickname there was the man upstairs. I lived like literally right above the stage, and I got into it again, and I had a musical partner. We played as a duet for a number of years, but it was always a struggle. It never felt right, because there was always this kind of part of me that wanted to achieve and climb that ladder and live that dream, but part of me that knew that this wasn't right for me, and there was this constant struggle. I was constantly deciding whether I wanted to even continue, and I quit and started and quit and started a number of times, and finally, about 5 or 6 years ago, since being in Ashland, thanks to the internet, I kind of returned to my folk roots and found a new way to do this thing, and I decided to record everything that I wrote and post it on my website and make it available free for downloading free, or I have a donation, you do like a digital tip jar. So I just decided to stop holding out for $10 and just say it's all free. And this turned out to free a huge amount of energy that I was spending propping up this dream and trying to make it happen, because I realized I don't want to be signed, I don't want to be famous, I don't want to travel, I don't want to have anything to do with this industry, so why chase it? Let's do it my way. I want to record everything I write. 1 year I did 6 albums. In 1 year I just was writing like crazy, because so much creative energy got unleashed by not pushing the river. So I ended up with a similar dream, but a better match for my nature. Ironically, I've had more success since I started doing that than I did when I was pushing so hard. It's not, crazy success. I'm obviously not a household name. I'm not James Taylor or Paul Simon or Bob Dylan or anything like that. But, I've got some fans around the world, and I communicate with a lot of people, and I've got a lot of great comments and downloads and tips and videos and stuff like that. So, and I had to do a similar thing romantically, when I was a young guy. I thought my dream was just this easy, flowing relationship. You meet your soulmate and everything just kind of works, and you just have fun and everything's great. And I kind of had to give up on that dream because, in reality, when you're in a marriage or in a relationship, there is another person over there, another person that you're in a relationship with who's just like you, constantly changing and becoming another person. And I began to focus more and more and more on the conversation between us, and less about the specifics, particulars of our life. It was more about how we talked about them, the conversation between us, which often sounds like fighting, but it's a conversation, and that's how we become, intimate. Basically, is by we have to be ourselves in proximity to another person. That is intimacy to me. If I can be myself completely close to you, then we are intimate. And it's not necessarily romantic, but it's definitely kind and it's definitely honest. And so again, I had to let go of a dream and find another way of doing it. And it's not popular. The popular thing now is go for it, go for your dreams. You can have anything you want. You can reach for the sky and never give up. But for me, giving up has been just the most valuable things I've ever tried to do, and the most miserable things I've had to do are things I was forcing myself to do that I didn't really want to do. Sometimes dreams, they come from a deep desire to express yourself and connect what's inside with what's outside. And other times dreams are motivated by escape. You want to get away from some kind of unpleasant feeling or uncomfortable feeling in yourself. There's this feeling, if you have one of these escape dreams, that if you give up this dream, you're never going to change. If you give up this dream, your life's going to stay exactly the same, that you have to dream, that you have to push. And I've just found the exact opposite to be true. The more I push and push and push those kind of dreams, the escape kind of dream, the more things stay exactly the same. But when I release that and just say, this is who I am, this is the way things are right now, they almost instantly start to change, because nothing is still. Everything is moving, everything's changing, and you free up that energy that was wrapped up in propping up this dream, because these escape dreams are high maintenance, they require a lot of energy, whereas the express yourself dream is low maintenance. It maintains itself, it just moves forward if you just let it. But you have to accept where you are. You have to accept where you are in the game that you're playing, And my escape dreams were really grandiose and kind of unrealistic. My express yourself dreams are a lot more realistic, a lot more doable. In Tai Chi, we call this investing in loss. This is where you are improving your skills in something, and you have to let go of your attachment to the previous skill level. You have to let go of your previous pride and accomplishment in where you were and become a beginner again. This is true in almost every art. Even just like shooting pool, it's an example I use. In the beginning, you just shoot shots in the hole and you're all good. But if you want to get better, you have to start thinking, where is that cue ball going to be after I make this shot? How's that going to set up the next one? And you have to, it's more difficult, and you start missing shots and losing games again. You have to be a beginner because you're aiming at a higher level. I saw this video once on America's Funniest Home Videos. It's one of the funniest, most profound videos I've ever seen in my life. It's this little scruffy dog, and he's trying to get in a sliding door, which is open about this far, and he's got a stick that's about this long. So he's got the stick, and he just runs for this door and bonk, 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 and he cannot get through the door with this stick. And he drops the stick, he's literally just thinking about it, So he jumps through the door, goes in the door, reaches through the door, and tries to pull the stick in. And it won't go in. There's just no way to get in that door without dropping that stick. And I think of the stick as like the Tai Chi master stick, or the James Taylor stick, or the Easy Romance stick. And the door is like me. It's just like, to get to myself, I couldn't go through the door unless I dropped this damn stick, So, and then, as I said, ironically, I've had more success since I dropped the stick than when I was trying to carry the stick. I've learned way more from failure than I have from success. I've become way happier after my failures than from my successes. The thing I've noticed as I look around the world is that success does not make people happy. There are successful, happy people, but they're not happy because they're successful. What I noticed, the people I know, they are happy because they got over themselves. They got over their special destiny and their specialness and their betterness, and just accepted who they were and just tried to do more of what they love in life and just be another spoke in the wheel, not the hub of the wheel, not the center of the universe, just being a regular person. I doubt if I had been more successful when I was younger, if I would be as sort of content and happy with my life as I am now. My failures helped me kind of get over myself, and so I could just be who I am. And now my dream is just to continue. It's just to do it and to not stop. So, my friends, I invite you to just look into your life and see if there's something you're doing with too much force, something you're trying to make happen, something that just isn't working, and that you're getting that feedback like, no, this isn't an open path if you're using force. And it could be something really major, like one of these dreams, a cherished dream, or it could be something minor, just like how you hold the steering wheel. When you're driving, how you talk to kids, how you hit the keyboard when you're typing. It could be really minor, just how you breathe. Just take a moment and breathe in a more relaxed, more comfortable, less forceful way. You don't have to be a Taoist, to use less force. But I warn you, if you keep doing it, you may turn into one because it is a very intriguing practice to let go of using force. So I'd like to sing a song for you now that just kind of brings us home a little bit more. and then we'll do a sing-along to finish up. And just give me 1 second to get my... What's that? I know we're running a tiny bit over, but I'll do my best here. Hopefully.
No problem.
This is a song I wrote called For Now.
Let us find the right dynamic, let's go transatlantic, sink our own Titanic. Let's be real, not romantic, let's be kind, but let's be honest. When we do or do not want it, fate is blind, but let's not taunt it. It's the blues, not a sonnet. Let's embrace the spreading night, let's not be afraid to fight. When the darkness meets the light, what is left is what is right for now. For now. We are space junk, we are stardust. We're afraid that God will card us, disrespect or disregard us, make a movie that won't star us. We're as big as we are small. Take your pick, walk or crawl. Either way we will fall through the cracks in the wall. Water skis, lake of fire, leaking boat, pair of flyers. All the help has retired. Need a job, you are hired for now. For now. Let's put roots in the sky, hang our dreams out to dry. See the beauty in the eye of every truth, every lie. Let's let love lead the way to the best resume. While we work, let us play. When the bill comes, let us pay. Life is life, do not fear it. We will never get too near it. If we try to oversteer it, we have cursed it. Now let's hear it for now. For now. Not a thing will survive. Let's be heard while we're alive. Let our prices take a dive. If you're broke, give me 5. Are we nice? Are we mean? What's our motive in this scene? Are we dirty? Are we clean? Aren't we always in between? Nothing old, nothing new. What's the point of your view? It's a jungle, it's a zoo, but it will have to do for now. For now. Let us find the right dynamic, let's go transatlantic, sink our own Titanic. Let's be real, not romantic, let's be kind, but let's be honest. When we do or do not want it, fate is blind, but let's not taunt it. It's the blues, not a sonnet. Let's embrace the spreading night, let's not be afraid to fight. When the darkness meets the light, what is left is what is right for now. For now. For now.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I've talked about flow more, force less, and investing in loss and surrender and all that. And this is where I go kind of Walt Whitman on you and contradict myself and go the other direction. This is a song about shooting for the stars and aiming really high and not accepting limits and just going for it. Because if you don't do that, you're never going to fail. And if you never fail, you're never going to get over yourself. So just really go for it. You can reach for the sky. You can do anything you want. The chorus to this song is super, super easy, and I hope you join me with it. It goes like, the chorus goes like this. Nothing's impossible now. Nothing's impossible now. If you are really in love with me, nothing's impossible now. Pretty easy, right? Try it with me. Nothing's impossible now. Nothing's impossible now. If you are really in love with me, nothing's impossible now. Beautiful. A cure for war and a cure for cancer. A Christmas song about Prancer and Dancer. I used to call you, but you wouldn't answer. Nothing's impossible now. Nothing's impossible now. Nothing's impossible now. If you are really in love with me, nothing's impossible now. The world could go back and be flat once again. We could sit down and write letters by pen. Cats could be trained to count up to 10. Nothing's impossible now. Nothing's impossible now. Nothing's impossible now. If you are really in love with me, nothing's impossible now. Gravity might be just a suggestion. We could trade all of our answers for questions. Now that your love is the church I've been blessed in, nothing's impossible now. Nothing's impossible now. Nothing's impossible now. If you are really in love with me, nothing's impossible now. Bluegrass bands could play really slow songs. Circles and squares could all get along. The president could admit he was wrong. Hey, nothing's impossible now. Doctors could pay you when they showed up late. I could be cheerful at 7:45. Now that you've asked me out on a date, nothing's impossible now. Nothing's impossible now. Nothing's impossible now. If you are really in love with me, nothing's impossible now. The Berlin Wall and the man on the moon, cracks in the stone we could walk right through. You loving me loving you, nothing's impossible now. Folk music back at the top of the charts, everyone singing and playing guitars, everyone dancing wherever they are, nothing's impossible now. All of our power could come from the sun, flowers could grow from the barrels of guns, a black guy riding in Air Force One, nothing's impossible now. Nothing's impossible now. Nothing's impossible now. If you are really